Good morning, Congregation Micah. Be blessed for the study of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, God, who commands us to draw near to Torah. And now a bless over the reading of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai hambarach. Baruch Adonai hambarach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. This week we're reading from the very beginning of the second to last book, from the book of Numbers. I'll read from the very first chapter, the first verse. Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe bamidbar Sinai ba'ohel moed be'echad lachodesh hasheni b'shana hashenit letzetam me'eretz Mitzrayim lemor se'u et rosh kol adat b'nei Yisrael lamishpachotam leveit avotam b'mizpar shemot kol zachar legulgelotam mi ben esrim shana v'mala kol yotzei tzava b'Yisrael tifkedu otam letzivotam ata ve'aharon va'itchem yihiyu ish lamate ish rosh leveit avotav hu ve'ele shemot ha'anashim asher ya'amdu itchem liruvein Eliezer ben Shedeur leShimon Shelumiel ben Tzuri Sadai Yehuda Nachshon ben Aminadav Yisachar Netanel ben Suar Zvulun Eliav ben Chelon Livnei Yosef LaEphraim Elishama ben Amihud Limnaseh Gamliel ben Pedatsur Lavin Yamin Avidan ben Gideoni Ladan Achiezer ben Amishadai Le'asher Pagiel ben Ochran Lagad Eliasaph ben Deuel Lenaftali Achira ben Enan Ele Krue Ha'edah Nisi'e Matot Avotam Rashi Alfei Yisrael Heim Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. So reading from the very beginning of the book of Numbers, we start with the Israelites in the wilderness, and Bamidbar, Numbers opens by setting the date of the census. Quite appropriate since we are taking a national census here in the United States as well. So Rosh Chodesh Iyar, the start of the second month of the second year since Israel departed from Egypt, is when this census is taken. And although the Israelites are more than a year deep in their journey, this date marks something of a new beginning since they are now in possession of laws as well as the tabernacle. And a central theme of the book of Numbers is transition. The census relates to this theme by depicting the transition of the tribes into a national body. And boy, are we ever in a time of transition ourselves. So the English reading that I just shared in Hebrew is, on the first day of the second month, in the second year, following the exodus from the land of Egypt, Adonai spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tent of meeting, saying, "Take a census of the whole Israelite company of fighters by the clans of its ancestral houses, listing the names, every male, head by head. You and Aaron shall record them by their groups, from the age of 20 years up, all those in Israel who are able to bear arms. Associated with you shall be a representative of each tribe, each one the head of his ancestral house. These are the names of the representatives who shall assist you. From Reuben, Elizur son of Shedur. From Simeon, Shelumiel son of Zurishaddai. From Judah, Nachshon son of Aminadav. From Issachar, Nathaniel son of Zuar. From Zebulun, Eliab son of Helon. From the sons of Joseph, from Ephraim, Elishama son of Amihud. From Manasseh, Gamliel son of Pedazur. From Benjamin, Abidan son of Gideoni. From Dan, Ahizer son of Ammishaddai. From Asher, Pagiel son of Ochran. From Gad, Eliasaph son of Deuel. And from Naphtali, Ahira son of Enan. Those are the elected of the assembly, the chieftains of their ancestral tribes. They are the heads of the contingents of Israel." Now I want to take a little bit of a deeper look into this census that happens at the very beginning of the book of Numbers and ask the question about who really counts in Bamidbar. So the portion starts with a series of census counts that are meant to establish the number of adult males and the number of Levites and the number of Kohanim, priests, among the people of Israel. The endless list of random names can, in fact, bore the average bar mitzvah student to tears, and they're not always easy to pronounce. Rabbis have been frustrated trying to find some hook to make these lengthy Torah passages seem worthwhile. Columns of numbers may, in fact, interest accountants, but the rest of us strain to experience either spiritual or moral resolve in a census of who was and who wasn't in ancient Israel. But we return to these verses every year, as we do all verses, and surely there must be a reason why the Torah includes them. Now, normally terse and laconic, the Torah must have a rationale for the recitation of this tedium. Why this attention to numbers? Well, Rashi, one of our favorite biblical commentators, has a very moving explanation. He says that the concern for counting each individual reflects God's intense love for each member of the Jewish people. Because they are cherished before God, they are counted at every occasion. Each and every one is counted. For in God's light, says Rashi, each and every individual is unique and precious. But in this enumeration of the people of Israel, there is a surprising omission. As the rabbis of the Talmud point out, neither Aaron nor Moses is included at all. They're not even in the general census, since Levites are excluded from the numbering, nor are they counted when the Levites are polled separately. If being counted is a sign of being loved, then why aren't Moses and Aaron, both of whom God clearly loved, why are they not included in the census? Perhaps their omission teaches us a really important lesson about human love. The love of humanity is a virtue that's found throughout Jewish literature, where it's called ahavat habriot. Most cultures value the love of humanity, a love that's mentioned so often as well by politicians, poets, and philosophers of all opinions and persuasions. But such a love is also too often ignored when it comes to specific groups of people. In the words of a character from the late Charles Schulz's cartoon strip, Peanuts, "I love humanity, it's people I cannot stand." But there's no generic humanity, meaning everybody is a particular kind of person. Is it really possible to claim to love humanity and at the same time to despise or discriminate against certain kinds of people? Jews who are different from us, human beings of another ethnic or racial group, somebody with a different sexual preference, or really anyone at all. The Torah addresses this very point. After reading the census of the 12 biblical tribes, followed by the census of the Levites, we rightly expect to see a census that will include Moses and Aaron. When no such census is forthcoming, we're shocked into dissent. If the Torah can't include Moses and Aaron, then surely the census must be fatally flawed. And so it is with us as well. If we cannot learn to love all groups of human beings, which is distinct from necessarily loving everything that they do, then we cannot claim to love humanity. Humanity is made in God's image. An inability to love all groups of people thus constitutes hatred of an aspect of God as well. For the sake of our human future, there is no time to lose. I hope that we can learn from this portion that we must resolve to cultivate our own ability to love precisely where we find love most difficult. I want to talk about one other topic that comes up in our Torah portion week, and that is the subject of bechira, of choosing, or namely of chosenness. Something that makes some Jews, pretty uncomfortable, this idea of being the chosen people. Or when a friend of yours who's not Jewish says, "Oh, I love the Jewish people, they're the chosen people." I'm sure we've all heard that at one time in our lives or another. And one confusion about being a Jew is understanding this concept of chosenness. One mistaken interpretation is that chosenness implies Jewish superiority to the rest of humanity, or even that God somehow cares only for Jews. And so uncomfortable is such an idea that some Jews have really rejected chosenness altogether, despite its centrality in both the Torah and the Talmud. Fearing the dangers of triumphalism and religious bigotry, they cannot see a way of understanding chosenness that would be compatible with a broader love of humanity. Well, Bamidbar, our Torah portion this Shabbat, I think helps us to understand what chosenness is really all about. And in the 4th book of the Torah, in Bamidbar, we open with just the very simple words at the beginning of the census, which says, "Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe Bahar Sinai." And God spoke to Moses in the wilderness at Sinai. Now, apparently, during the first year following the liberation of the Israelite slaves from Egypt, from Mitzrayim, they had journeyed to and camped around Mount Sinai. But now they began to move into the wilderness, and they're going to spend the next 38 years here. It's a long time. Continuing their travels and their intimate dialogue with God that will really form the root and essence of our Torah. For the generation of liberation and wandering, most of life was spent in the wilderness. And why? What is so significant about the wilderness? Well, according to Midrash Bamidbar Rabbah, our sages inferred from this that the Torah was given to the accompaniment of 3 things: fire, water, and wilderness. Why fire, water, and wilderness? Because the Midrash goes on to comment that just as fire, water, and wilderness belong freely to all humanity, so also are the words of Torah free, as it is said, "All who are thirsty, come for water." That's from the book of Isaiah. The wilderness for the sages is that territory belonging to no single person and to no single people. And so too, God's love, loyalty, concern are not the prerogative of a single people. To claim a monopoly on them is to really diminish the grandeur of God, an expression of human arrogance. It's frankly blasphemy. Why was the Torah given in the wilderness? To warn us, to warn Jews not to mistake this precious gift for favoritism, nor imagine that possessing the Torah makes us more worthwhile or more valuable or even better than others. On the contrary, our tradition views our relationship with God as distinct because it bestows on us particular responsibilities. Time and again, the Torah summons us to fulfill our responsibilities to all humankind, to be a nation of priests and a holy people, facilitating the relationship between God and all people everywhere through our fidelity to Jewish living, to Jewish study, and to Jewish observance. But the wilderness has yet even another significance. A wilderness, says the Midrash, is open on all sides. Similarly, one who does not throw himself open to all cannot acquire wisdom and Torah. In the words of Rabbi Ibn Gabriel, wisdom can only come through a willingness to accept truth from any source. To be a spiritual seeker means becoming as the wilderness our ancestors wandered, taking in travelers from all directions, willing to listen and learn from all. God spoke from the wilderness of Sinai to remind us of the need for humility and to urge us to be open to all sources of wisdom and knowledge. And finally, to remind us that we really must ultimately serve all of humanity and work for the redemption of the entire world. So what then about chosenness? Well, I think being chosen means maintaining our distinct peoplehood, learning from all without losing our own character and identity. God delights in variety rather than sameness, but in the symphony of humankind in which each group plays its own notes and melodies to create a music more profound and lovely than any one part could possibly produce by itself. We are chosen to be Jews, teaches Rabbi Bradley Artson, to embody the ways of Judaism in our daily lives. And in doing so, we deepen our connection with all human beings, all chosen, each in their own way, to contribute to creating really the harmony of life. So we recite together the blessing over the Haftorah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'nviim tovim, b'ratzav divrehem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah, u'Moshe avdo, u'Yisrael amo, u'v'nviei ha'emet v'tzedek. So we turn to the Haftorah for Bamidbar. And let's see, we're going to be on page 327. It's from the prophet Hosea. And let's take a little look at the prophet Hosea for a moment. So Hosea was a prophet that lived in the 8th century BCE and was really a younger contemporary of the prophet Amos. He resided and preached in the northern kingdom, whose irreligious practices had really become an abhorrence to God. Baal worship was common, and the God of the covenant was increasingly forgotten. Now, our Torah portion this week talks about, as we know, the census and Israel's numbers in the wilderness, and our Haftorah portion in Hosea begins with the promise that the people of Israel will be, quote, like the sands of the sea, which is a phrase we've heard before, right? That's a trope from the promise that God makes to Abraham, and that the people of Israel will be like the sands of the sea, not to be measured or counted, which is where we get one of the prohibitions against actually counting people. We don't count people in that way. So I'm going to chant a little bit from our Haftorah this morning. I bring it a little closer to me since my eyes are not as good as they used to be. V'haya mispar b'nei Yisrael kechol hayam, asher lo yimad v'lo yisaper, v'haya bimkom asher ye'amer lahem lo ami atem, ye'amer lahem b'nei el chai, v'nikbetzu b'nei Yehuda u'b'nei Israel yachdav, u'shmo lahem rosh echad ve'alu min haaretz, ki gadol yom Yisrael. Imru le'achechem ami, v'la'achotechem ruchama. Rivu va'imchem rivu, ki hi lo ishti, va'anochi lo isha, v'taser zenuneha mipaneha, v'na'afufeha mi bein shadeha. So the number of the people of Israel shall be like the sands of the sea, not to be measured or counted. And where they were called, you are not my people, they shall now be called the children of the living God. The people of Judah and Israel shall be gathered together and choose for themselves a single head and rise up from the ground. For the day of Jezreel will be great. Call your brothers my people and your sisters loved by God. Complain against your mother. Complain, for she is no longer my wife, and I am not her husband. Let her remove her whorings from her face, her adulteries from between her breasts. And we'll go ahead and bless after. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol haolamim, tzadik bechol hadorot, ha'el haneman, ha'omer ve'osei, hamdaber umkayem, shekol devarav emet betzedek, al haTorah ve'al havodah ve'al hanevim ve'al yom haShabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'limnucha lechavod ultifaret, al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umvorchim otach yitbarach shimcha b'fi kol chai tamid leolam va'ed, baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. So in the Haftorah for Parshat Bamidbar, which is, as we know from the book of Hosea, it's really a prophecy of redemption. And in the opening verses, God promises that the people will be numerous, like the sands of the sea. Again, a trope we've heard once before. And they'll be recognized as being children of the living God. And Judah and Israel will assemble together, unified under one leader. We get this metaphor in the Haftorah this week of a wayward wife. Hosea explains why Israel is in need of redemption by telling the story of Israel's sin and punishment. And Hosea does this by using the parable of a husband and a wife, and the wife's lovers representing God, the people of Israel, and idols, respectively. In Hosea's story, the husband is faithful, but his wife is constantly playing the harlot. Welcome to our patriarchal tradition. Believing that her lovers are responsible for her rich and very comfortable life, she says, I will go after my lovers who supply my bread and my water, my wool and my linen, my oil and my drink. That's from chapter 2, verse 7. And the abandoned husband is devastated and he's angered. Does his wife not realize that he's the one who provides her with grain and with wine and with oil and silver and gold? He promises to block her path so that she will not be able to find her lovers. When she finally decides to return to her first husband, he will punish her. And the quote from chapter 2 is, now I will uncover her shame in the very sight of her lovers. I will lay waste her vines and her fig trees, which she thinks are a fee she received from her lovers. So, okay, this is Israel who has sinned through idol worship. That's Israel's lovers. And her vines and her fig trees, meaning all of her plenty on her land, will be laid to waste. All right, so there's the metaphor. Though betrayed, the husband will be unable to remain angry forever. And after punishing his wife, he will return to love her once again. And so the text reads, I will speak coaxingly to her and lead her to the wilderness and speak to her tenderly. At the end of the Haftorah, Hosea speaks more explicitly about how this story actually represents God and Israel. And he explains that God will make a covenant with the people, banishing violence and war from the land to allow the people to live in safety. And Hosea returns to this vocabulary of marriage in the Haftorah's closing lines, where he says, I will betroth you forever. I will betroth you to me with righteousness and justice, and with goodness and mercy. I will betroth you with faithfulness. You shall be devoted to God. And by the way, these are lines that we say often when taking vows in a Jewish marriage ceremony, and they are written often on the ketubah of a couple. Okay, we'll have to rethink what that all means, but for another time and another conversation. So the Hebrew name for the book of Numbers is Bamidbar, which means in the wilderness. And this is really an apt title for the book that chronicles the Israelites' time in the wilderness and the episode with the quail after the Israelites complain about the manna, the story of the spies who scouted out the land of Israel, and Korach's rebellion. These stories and others in the book repeatedly describe a cycle of disbelief in God, sin, and then punishment. And really that characterizes this sort of 40-year wandering in the desert. But in the book of Hosea, it seems that God's memory of the wilderness is really not so negative. God is in fact hopeful that this location will be conducive to his reconciliation with his unfaithful wife. Really still grappling with that metaphor. I'm not enjoying it. But the unfaithful wife represents the people of Israel. And God thinks of this period that the Israelites spend in the wilderness after leaving Egypt as one of the highlights of his relationship with Israel. So much so that he considers the wilderness a good destination for a second honeymoon. And I'm just going to pause here to say that Egypt is not a good destination for any honeymoon. But okay, I digress. Earlier in this very same Haftorah, wilderness imagery appears in a not so positive context. In describing how the betrayed husband will punish his wife, Hosea promises, "I will strip her naked and leave her as on the day she was born. I will make her like a wilderness, render her like desert land, let her die of thirst." All right, you know what? We're just going to stop for a moment. So I have a hard time reconciling poor behavior, even if it's metaphor, about how women are treated. And Hosea is no exception. There are plenty of other better metaphors for describing the cycle of sin and punishment and redemption that the Israelites go through in the wilderness than a wayward wife and the torture that her husband puts her through as a result. Only because we know that there are plenty of times in Torah and Talmud where the wife is not wayward at all and the husband is not held accountable for his bad behavior. So, okay, I just had to say it. What could be a better portrayal of the Israelites' experience in the wilderness? Or their romantic, loving closeness with God, as suggested in the second part of Haftorah? Well, I think we're encouraged to ask these questions as we read our way through the book of Numbers, which we will be doing for the next couple of months. And to ask the question about what is the fair depiction and role of women in this particular book? So join me in asking that question as we dive deeper. And thank you for studying Torah and Haftorah with me today. Shabbat Shalom.